Did it finally. All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Drumballo Melchizedek, and we're live on Q&A broadcast from One Lotus Studios in Sedona, Arizona. If you would wish to be on this show, this is for tuition members and for registered students of the School of Remembering only right now. Well, we may change this once we get going. And we apologize for this delay. We practiced this for 5 days, and then we found out there was something we didn't know. So we're up here, I think. Okay, let's go to the first person, which is Andre from Byron Bay, Australia. Are you up there? Can we put him on?
Yes, Andre.
Andre. Hello, Andre.
Okay.
What's happening?
Andre is not responding.
Let's go to Jerry.
Okay, go ahead, Jerry.
Jerry from West Palm Beach, Florida.
Good morning, Blow. I hope that you're doing well today. My question is basically about the changes that have been ongoing. I'm actually a Cherokee Indian. I live in West Palm Beach. There's a large Guatemalan community here. There's a lot of Maya that live here. And back probably around 2011, I was given really strong images and meditation that South Florida would be imminently covered with water. I actually saw probably 40 foot of water above my head over a series of days. And the message I got was to leave and to go to the Cherokee Nation, which is around the Blue Ridge area, the Smoky area that is part of the mountain range. When I was there, I met the Lakota. The Lakota did a lot of sweats. It seems like we missed the bullet. It appears that there was going to be a substantial amount of physical changes that would reduce the level of the population to probably a few hundred million. So we just stayed. I just stayed up there for a period of months. Then came back down to West Palm Beach. Was still a little hesitant about what was going to occur. I then read your book, The Serpent of Light, where you clearly indicated, I think it was in 2009 when you wrote the book, that these changes probably would occur, that the trajectory of humanity was that prophecy would be fulfilled. Obviously, it appears enough minds or hearts were changed where we basically missed the bullet. I did a very powerful meditation with the Maya here, December 9th. There's a grid, strong grid line that's right off the coast of Atlantis here in Lake Worth, Florida. And it was one of the most powerful ceremonies I've ever experienced. Knowing from a Native American background and doing a Mayan ceremony was totally different. The energy produced by this particular event was enough to blow out one of the transformers that was nearby the event that we were actually at. December 21st, did the meditations with you, and by about noon our time, auras began to appear, mostly yellow. The veil looked like it had been actually lifted, and then everything just like stopped. There doesn't seem to be any activity going on since then. My meditations have been very calm and peaceful. There appears that, though, that there's echoes that are coming from that 2011 period of warning, which seem to be with people that aren't as well connected to their heart, where the imminent doom of mankind, FEMA, death camps, the whole collapse of the monetary system. I don't see any of that occurring anymore. It's like we passed that. These are echoes. So above, so below is what I'm kind of feeling. And the question to you is really, what is it that you're seeing, what it is that you're feeling at this particular time, or what messages, where do you feel we're going at this point?
Okay. Well, there's a lot to this question, and it isn't as simple as it may seem. First of all, we are not out of the Mayan window yet. And so any of the ideas that have been put out by the Mayans or by other people such as Edgar Cayce or other prophets, we have not come to the time when it is over with yet. It began on October 24th, 2007, and it will end, according to the Mayan both Mayan councils, both the Guatemalan Mayan Council and the Yucatan Mayan Council, that this is not over with until the end of 2015. In other words, they don't know, the Mayans do not know when this the destruction of the old cycle begins. And it doesn't, and they said clearly many times that it would not happen on December 21st, 2012. Or even right in there, they didn't think so. They thought it would either happen before or after, and now there's no doubt if it's going to happen, it's going to happen after. I'm not sure exactly how to present this because this is a huge, huge question. The events are happening now. The events that you're speaking about are in the process of occurring at this moment. It isn't something that may happen someday. We have so many things going on right now that the news broadcast will not even talk about it. For one thing, the geomagnetic reversal, which we are in the process of, that is now to the point where the ionosphere doesn't even work at this moment. We are wide open. The suggestions of England and Russia and the United States that we would have a complete blackout of the entire world, we are not through that yet. There are changes that are occurring almost monthly, and we don't know. We just simply don't know. There are other factors that are going on that are also unfolding that are everything that we have ever thought of before is still happening. You just can't see it as clearly. But the effects of global warming, which happened that has been now documented beyond a scientific level. The global warming aspect, if it got to 400 parts per million in the very high areas of the atmosphere, which is where the observatories are, if we ever reach that, then science said that we are definitely in global warming. We reached that in 2012, and the Hurricane Sandy that took place was the side effects of reaching into global warming. And when we saw that one, everyone from Michael Moore to everyone you can think of said, okay, we have reached it. Now that we just went into this hurricane in Philippines, which was the largest hurricane ever, most powerful hurricane ever to happen, there is no doubt whatsoever the events of global warming, which usually leads into an ice age, we are in the midst of this. We still are alive, and we are still moving forward. But there are a lot of things. The things with methane, which is another huge event that no one's talking about, has began in 2013, where the methane is now beginning to dissolve and melt into the atmosphere. I can't get into all of these things that are happening, but believe me, we are not out of this yet. And but the Mayans say that we will not be out of this until the end of 2015, and so I'm saying January 1st, 2016. If you don't see anything beginning by January 1st, 2016, then yes, the Mayans were wrong. And so were other people that thought this, and so were many of the scientists. But we are not even close to being out of this. But there are some very positive things occurring. And we're going to talk about those things over the next few weeks. I would say it now, but we're making a video of this, so I would like to present it very professionally when we get to it. At any rate, don't give up on this yet, because we are not out of this storm. There's too many things. If you really knew all the environmental problems that were happening right now simultaneously, you'd understand that it is accelerating faster and faster and faster to the very event that you think is going to happen. So, hang in there.
And Andre now is back.
Okay, Andre, did that answer your question at all, or are you still confused?
Jerry.
Jerry, excuse me.
Yes, it did, Drumbelow, and thank you very much. I know these things really are not really that predictable, and it just seems there's a little calm before the storm at this particular time.
Well, the thing is our governments will not tell you what's going on. They have decided not to. And for whatever that reason is, they do not want to talk about it. And so if this would have been any other event, if it had been something that was going on in some war somewhere, they would have talked about it. But they all of them. The only one that is not in that position is Russia. And Russia is willing to speak about these things. We are going to Russia to speak with the National Academy of Sciences of Moscow and Marina Popovich and others there to talk about some of these events that are going on. And there you will hear real information. You're not going to hear anything from the United States. They are not going to tell you anything. They would rather hide it. That's the way it is.
So we're going to go with Andre.
Okay, so let's go to the next question.
Hi, Drumvalo. Thank you very much for doing this session. I hope you're happy with them and we can do some more of them and to get more questions and more answers out there.
We will. We had to get the technology straight first.
Yeah. Well, it seems like it's working. So my question is quite different. It's much more personal. I think there's a lot of us out there who have read your books and particularly Living in the Heart, and we're all trying, wanting to get into our own sacred space of the heart. And I think it would be a wonderful world if we're all living in our hearts and all those things we talked about would be behind us. But so my question then is, I have been practicing the meditation and I'm using the unity breath, and I was trying the masculine approach, which is dropping down into that toroidal field and sensing that toroidal field, and then letting that carry me into the sacred space, and it didn't really work. I didn't really sense that toroidal field. And then the other day I thought, well, maybe I'm meant to be doing the feminine approach. So I thought, well, I'll go into the membrane of the heart, and I've just started doing that. And actually, maybe that's the way I'm supposed to do it. So, maybe people will need to look at that as well. But so I guess the question is if you can shed some light on how, beyond what's in the book, about how we can get into our sacred space using our inner vision more or our imagination more. Do we imagine it, or do we sense it, or do we just feel our way? Or so. Yeah, thank you.
This is also a very big question. It takes a while to explain and to understand, but I'll do the best I can in a short amount of time. First of all, there are when I give a class of about 120 people, usually about 35 or 40 make it through in the first 5-day thing, and the rest of them have to go back, and they do it over the next few months. And then there's always a few people that it might take them a year, sometimes even 2 years to find their way in. Traditionally, throughout the world, and Kundalini Yoga and Kriya Yoga and these kinds of, and even Tibetan Buddhism, it traditionally takes a minimum of 21 to 40 years to be able to do this. And so we're trying to compress this down into 5 days. It isn't easy. There are 2 places in the meditation that are problems. Everything else is easy, but there are 2 places. That's one, of being able to get into the sacred space of the heart, and the other one is to be able to generate enough alpha in your brain to be able to trigger the opening of the third eye. So you got 2 small windows you got to pass through. The one of getting into your heart, yes, there are 2 ways. There is a male way and a female way, and you definitely do need to try both ways. There is something that I want to mention first, and that is, and we're very clear in this in the workshops, and you might not have gotten this, but the unity breath, where you before you begin to do this meditation, you must connect with Mother Earth and with love and feel her love. You must connect with Father Son, which is all the rest of creation, and you have to connect with all of the rest of creation with love and feel their love back to you. Then you must feel the love between the mother and the father, and then you must feel the love for yourself. If you can't do that for any reason, you can't do this work, period. You have to be able to get into it. Puts a frequency, a very specific frequency in your spirit, so that when you enter into the sacred space of the heart, you have that frequency. If you don't have that frequency, no matter what you do, you can't get in to the heart. So you have to make sure that you are doing the unity breath properly before you attempt to get in. And that is another area that is sometimes overlooked. People don't think it's too important, but it is essential. You have to do it. You do the best you, and there is another thing also, and that is that if you have trauma that you may not even be aware of, it could have happened when you were old or something, but if you have emotional trauma that has happened to you, and you have to solve that trauma before you can enter into your heart. I'm talking about really big traumas that happen. Usually small ones won't do it, but these big ones where people have been raped and they've been violently hurt and things like this, these kind of things have to be dealt with a psychologist first before you can get in. Otherwise, when you try to get in, you will feel the pain, and it comes off as being the space feels very, very cold, or it could feel painful to get in, and there's nothing I can do about that. You have to be able to deal with your emotional traumas, and so these are all areas of getting into the heart that are important. The way of getting into the heart, the feminine way, which doesn't have to mean that you're a female, but simply means that you're using a different pathway, which is not a logical pathway. The pathway into male is logical, and we can tell you exactly how to do it, such as the one you mentioned, which is getting into the toroidal field, and there are others that we know that will work. But for some people, the male way is difficult, and they need to go into the female way. And there are, my wife teaches that, Claudette, but there are probably other people in the world also that do teach this. But it is easier for certain people to get into their heart through the feminine way, if that is the way that you're used to doing. Or if you're dealing with all of your psychic phenomena through that way. So I hope this helps you. I don't know, but this is sometimes a huge stumbling block that will take time to be able to resolve. And for other people, it's easy and nothing to it. So anyway, I hope this helps you. Can we go back to?
Yeah, he's there. His feed cuts in and out. Okay, okay, we're gonna go to Marina now.
Okay, this is Marina from Montreal, Canada. Hi, Marina.
Hello, Drumbelow. I speak Russian. I'm sorry. My friend translate for me in English.
It's okay.
Я проходила ваш семинар в Монреале.
So I went to your workshop in Montreal.
И читала все книги.
I read all your books.
У меня тоже трудности с тем, чтобы попасть в священное пространство сердца.
I also have difficulty going into the sacred space of the heart.
Но случай немного другой.
But a little different.
В детстве, в 11 лет,
But as a child at about 11,
я спонтанно сделала эту медитацию. Я вошла в
I
сердце.
was spontaneously able to enter the heart just suddenly.
Я летела через этот черный туннель достаточно долго.
I flew through this dark tunnel for quite a while.
И когда он закончился, я увидела огромный космос, открытый со звездами.
And when the tunnel ended, I entered into this open space.
Я так испугалась ребенком,
I was so afraid as a child.
что я успела уцепиться за край туннеля и побежать обратно.
I grabbed onto the end of the tunnel and I ran back.
Когда я бежала, я закрывала за собой двери,
And as I was running back, I was closing all kinds of doors behind me.
И после этого я, когда повзрослела и прочла ваши книги,
After I grew up and read all your books,
я пыталась сделать этот опыт, но до сих пор у меня не получается.
I tried to repeat this experience, but I could not still.
Могла ли я этим закрыть себе возможность туда проникнуть сейчас?
Could I have back then closed the path for myself to be able to do it now?
Спасибо огромное, Друнбал.
Thank you very much.
Пожалуйста. You know, I think that what my wife would say is to get back into that space as close as you can, and then to tell yourself to open all those doors again, because if they are closed, they're closed, and that's in the psychic world, those things are real, and so you must tell your body to reopen all of those doors and give it those instructions. This would probably help. I mean, at least definitely try that. And you heard what I said. I believe it was to Jerry. Was it Andre or Jerry? Sorry. The same. There are many other factors involved in this, of being able to get into that space, and the most important one really is to be able to connect with Mother Earth and Father Sun before you go in there. So I'm assuming you're doing that. Is that true? Are you going into? You're doing the unity breath first?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, I just want to make sure, because sometimes people forget that, and if you do, I've talked to people that have been doing the meditation for years and years and years, and when I got into it deeply with them, I found out they were not doing that, and so it's just like a waste of time. Okay, and in terms of traumas and things like that, I don't know that part of you. These are the things that you have to work out. I mean, this is why. One of the reasons why it takes so long in the traditional world to be able to get through all these doorways and to get into this kind of level of consciousness. It isn't easy there. It requires a lot of work. However, in your particular case, if you would connect with my wife, Claudette, I think that she could help you pretty quickly. I think.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Спасибо большое.
Thank you very much, Drumbal.
All right. You're welcome. Jason, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Thank you for your patience, Jason.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, so my question, well, a little background real quick. I had an experience. I was going within myself, and I found myself in kind of like a bubble. And at the center of the bubble was my consciousness. And when I looked around, it was a hollow bubble. And it was kind of like a golf ball looking thing. And then all of a sudden, reality started appearing on this bubble. And my body appeared. And as I was walking, it wasn't me that was moving or walking. It was the picture on the bubble that was moving, like a 3D reality kind of movie being played out. And it was like right outside of my fingertips. It wasn't... Basically, everything that I was seeing was right in front of me on a screen. So when I came back from this, I was looking at reality as not being outside of myself, but my heart creating the reality that I'm seeing on this bubble around me. And that really projected me to really go in and try and figure out what was happening here in this reality. And it kind of brought me to this fate of predetermined reality. And then I was watching you on Lilu, and you were talking about scientists who have come up with a formula to prove that our reality is predetermined. And like you were talking about earlier about how the minds have a time frame, that time frame isn't set specifically to a date, but it's definitely going to happen within a specific time frame.
Yes.
So it's kind of like it's showing the predetermination of our reality, and really, it's not. I don't need verification of it to happen. So really, I know within myself that what we're experiencing here, it's coming from our heart first, and then being put on this screen that we're experiencing. So the reality outside of us is only from our internal processing.
Yes.
So how do we get? Sorry.
So you arrived at this from your meditation or just from your experience?
Yeah. What was going on was I was part of a group, and each week we'd sit and we'd speak from our heart. People call it channeling. I like to call it speaking from the heart. And it was through there I came to this location to where there was nothing, and I felt my consciousness, but I seen this wall, and then everything started appearing on this wall. So as I was walking, I wasn't walking. It was the image around me moving.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with what you're talking about, and very few people on Earth have had that experience. What you experience is the truth. The bubble you're talking about, we call it the Leonardo sphere. It's right around you, and it's right out at your fingertips. You can just barely touch the surface of it,
Right.
If you get in just the right way, and that is exactly what happens. The external reality is not where we think it is. We think it's external to us, and that it is the distant stars are 17 billion miles away, and that all this stuff is real. What consciousness knows is, and this is through not just my way of seeing, but the Tibetan Buddhism way of seeing and others, is that what is external to us is not there. Where it actually is on a bubble around your body, and it's on the inner surface of that bubble, and this is a whole nother way of perceiving life, and we have long forgotten that. We had a bump in our head about 13,000 years ago, and we lost our ability to understand that anymore. We think we're living on a planet, and all these things are real. But there is something about our reality that we need to understand before we proceed much deeper into higher consciousness. And what you're saying is exactly how I see it also. We've actually mapped how things come out of the heart and how exactly they get to that bubble. It just changes the way we think of things, and slowly that begins to change everything. Don't be concerned about what you saw. I would actually go deeper into it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm not concerned. I just like to really dig into it and really, like, my mind is all about figuring it out and trying to wrap it around so I can share with other people and have them experience it. Because what I'm talking about, it's not very easy to talk about and share with people because it's so different from how we experience this reality. So to tell someone that what they're experiencing isn't real, kind of, it's real. It's 100% real, but real within yourself.
What the reality is just pure consciousness.
Consciousness, right? Yes.
Your consciousness.
Yes, exactly.
And what that means is that you can change the external reality with your consciousness.
Yes.
And that is the first step of ascension. You have to understand what you're understanding, and you have to then learn how to begin to change the external reality, not for the purpose of making money or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just a waste of time.
Yes.
But to understand what it is, because you need to know this information when you get into the next level of existence. You have to know exactly what you're learning right now, and that you are the creator of everything that you're seeing. Because when you get into the next world, if you don't know that, then what happens is the world is very unusual, and you go into fear, and you begin, and if you don't know that you're creating everything that you're looking at, then you begin to create from fear. And what that does is it throws you back into this third-dimensional world, and you failed ascension. And so in the ATH teachings that we teach, we go into depth about this of what it is and how the real world is, so that you can understand this, so that when you make the ascension, you're not in fear, and you are able to be stable in that new world, and then you begin to create from love, and you create a world that you want to live, and this is what ascension is all about.
Definitely.
But, anyway, I'm amazed, really, that you've seen that, because very, very, very few people in the world know what you're talking about.
I have one more question. This came to me recently about astrology, and coming from an infinite reality of consciousness where it's just so vast, all information is available, to a finite experience as an individual.
Yes.
When I came through with, I never looked into astrology until recently, but it was very interesting to me because I look at the brain basically as a filter. That's it. It's a filter of consciousness. Mm-hmm. So coming from an infinite space of consciousness down to a finite experience, astrology plays into effect of being a filter of how you experience reality. So I'm a Sagittarius, right? So I'm reading all this information about Sagittarius, and I'm like, wow, that is so me. Like, that fits the bill for me. And then I'm reading all these other people, and they're like, that's me, that's so me. I'm like, well, wait a second. This is my internal processing here, and everybody has it that's Sag? I'm like, something's odd. So what I look at it is, all these planetary alignments, the time of our birth, give us a filter to perceive the reality. Because the reality that we're experiencing is obviously already predetermined, but what makes it unique is how we perceive the reality. And that reality is put through filters through the brain to experience the reality. And when people do like ayahuasca or do smoke marijuana or anything like that, when they do drugs, they're not actually adding to reality. They're removing the filter to perceive more of what reality is.
That's a good way of seeing it, yeah. There's so much. I mean, this is a conversation that really should have about 3 or 4 hours.
I understand.
To be able to do this, but because it's just you've touched upon the very core of what this is all about. Astrology, though, is just the stars.
Yes.
And at the moment of your birth, that's the doorway that you step through, and where you are geographically on the surface of the Earth is also equally as important, because we're a sphere and we reflect the stars, or the stars come at us from different angles, and all those angles and locations where you are when you're born is crucial to all of this. But astrology is somewhat limited in its ability to project as to who you really are. Mm-hmm. There's a little taste of it. Astrology, as we're using it now, is brand new. It's never been used this way before until just recently. And just the last, when was it? I think it was discovered in the late 1800s or early 1900s. To use it on individuals, it was always used on countries and in large areas of the Earth rather than a single individual. And so the way we're using it now, you have to understand, is just new, and we're still learning. There are many other systems that work on the stars that I think are better than astrology as we're using it now.
Yeah.
One that came out of Peru, which is has to do with the Enneagram and the 27 personalities. That is way better than anything I've seen in astrology. And also the what's it called? The human design, which is another one. It's also based on the stars and everything else, but it is perhaps a little bit better than astrology. So you might check out, especially human design. You might find that as an improvement. But but it's still a mental idea trying to understand something that we still think is real.
Right.
And without getting underneath that idea, we're just scratching the surface of something and not really getting into the core of what's really happening.
Right. I just use astrology as kind of like a crux to talk to somebody and try to explain it to them, because my truth reality is when I'm speaking to everybody, I'm just speaking to consciousness. So when I speak to somebody and I see all their characteristics, I understand that that's just a filter on consciousness that they're experiencing.
Yeah.
So
The filters that we see, though, are not so much the stars or any of those kind of things, but the Merkaba that you're using. In Melchizedek consciousness, we know that there's a little over, there's approximately 100,200 different Merkabas, and but there's only one reality. There just is whatever there is.
Right.
But every time you change your Merkaba, the entire universe completely and utterly changes.
Right.
And it appears totally differently. And then underneath each one of those Merkabas are millions and millions and millions of other possibilities. And so it's a pretty complex reality that we live within. I mean, we created this. And so astrology is a filter, but it's a very, very, very weak filter relative to Merkaba science, which defines it specifically and precisely.
Right.
And so use what you need to use and whatever works, but every time you go up a little bit, do check into human design. I think you'll find that's a lot clearer than astrology is.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Those are really good questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can someone Ben? Patient.
Ben?
Hey, John Boy.
Where are you, Ben? There you are. Hi, Ben. Where are you from, Ben?
Brisbane in Australia.
Oh, Brisbane, Australia. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
up
So, hey.
I said it's beautiful up there. You know, but
Yeah. It's a good spot. Yeah. Well, my question's pretty simple, actually. I just wondered if there's anything new that you sort of found out recently about, the process that we're in here on Earth, that you could share with us today. Maybe something that our ancestors, the indigenous people, have shared with you recently, or just something new. Yeah, that's right.
well, one of the most something absolutely, from my point of view, one of the most amazing things ever just took place, and it is one of the most positive things I've seen in a very long time. I can only brush upon it right now because, for one thing, we're about to do the interview with the scientist that found this out, and that should be up on the School of Remembering probably within a month. I'm not sure, or less. But something occurred in the United States where I'm going to just make it very brief, but we had a catastrophe of a level that no one has seen in the United States, or probably just about anywhere except around Chernobyl. What happened in Chernobyl would be about the same. We had rain come from Fukushima that fell in the Aspen, Colorado area that was on levels that is not acceptable by anyone. It's over the legal limits. It's way too high. And it was so high that it rained for 3 days. And after that time, the government was in there. They came in. They looked at the whole situation, and they were completely freaked out, because it would mean that for hundreds of square miles around Aspen, every single last living person would have to leave there forever and never return. And then when the rain stopped on the third day, they measured the radiation into the soil, and it was 7 to 9 inches into the soil. And this would mean that the only solution known on Earth to solve this problem would be remove about a foot or more of all the soil for hundreds of square miles around, including all the living things on it, all the trees and bushes and everything else, to remove this radiation. But suddenly, with all the scientists and the government officials and everybody there, the radiation began to drop unexplainably. And they had all the instruments, and they were all these scientists were watching it drop. It kept dropping It kept coming down, 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 down until it got to kind of an average place, and it kept going down, 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 down until it became one of the lowest levels recorded on Earth. And there's no explanation for that. Our government went back, and our government said, actually, while they were on site, that the only way that this could take place is through pure consciousness. And so they went back thinking it was the ETs. Our government, there are over 300,000 ET cultures that are here on Earth right now, and our government, the last time they told me, was that they were speaking with 56 different cultures. They went back and talked to them, and they all said that we are not doing this. And they said, you are doing this. Human beings did this. And if this is the case, that human beings were able to reduce radiation in this level, in this kind of way, ascension has begun. This is definite proof. If this proves to be true, this is definite proof that ascension has begun, that we have begun to understand the nature of the reality, and we are going into our hearts and we're changing it. I believe that before we leave this earth, we are going to change everything. We're going to. It is our responsibility that we go back. We have completely slaughtered this planet, and we are going to go back and to fix all the oceans and the air and the earth and everything else for the whole globe before we leave. This is a very deep belief I have, and if this is true, we have begun to do it. This is amazing. And now, one of the scientists that was there, we are going to give an interview with him. He has all the readings so that we can actually see the levels of radiation that came in from Fukushima and what happened. And we will also be able to see the radiation dropping off and going down to this super low level. And we'll be able to ask him all kinds of questions around all of this. We're going to do this as soon as possible because this is amazing. And so,
yeah, that's pretty cool.
I mean, this is one of the brightest lights I've seen ever on Earth, if this is true. I really hope this is true. So we're going for it. We're going to get this guy in here and get the interview and get it up on as soon as possible. And but anyway, I thank you for your question. And that's probably the brightest light I see. There are others, but most of them are into the dark area because we're still in that dark area. We haven't got through that side of it yet. But you have to understand there is so much beauty coming. We're still in the area where the Mayans say that the old cycle breaks down. The old cycle is the male aspect of the precession, the equinoxes, or 5 of their long count, which is the same thing. And so once we get through there, we're going to begin to see the light of the feminine way that comes into it, and a whole new way of perceiving the world and understanding things, and that all begins to lead into this beautiful place where we go into the next level, and from there everything is great. We don't have to worry about the kinds of things that we're worrying about here anymore. We're going to make this. We know this because we can see into the future, and we know we make it, but we barely make it. We just squeeze in, just underneath, and we do make it. Every last human being on Earth is going to make it, whether we think of them as a good person or a bad person. That's just polarity. Once we get into unity, those kind of things are not, they don't serve us anymore. We're in a new reality where there is only unity and oneness, and it just is different. Anyway, I thank you for your questions and everything, and I know we went over. We started late. Hopefully this won't happen again. And I really appreciate your participation in all of this. And we're going to do this as often as we can. So save up your questions, and I'll do my very best to answer those questions. And if I can't answer the question, I'll just tell you I can't. So anyway, I love you guys, and thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Jumbo.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, thank you, spasiba, gracias, and